Well, I've been singing some songs and telling some stories of the hobos, and some of them have been that stories by that fella Charlie Fox that I told you about. This is another one of his stories. He used to tell it like this. Sparks, Nevada used to be a division point on the Union Pacific Railroad. Sparks was about 3 miles east of Reno, but knowing how this country's changed, I suppose it's part of Reno proper by now, but that don't really matter because it's not actually about Sparks. It's about a lady who lived just north of the town of Sparks. So I dedicate this to one of the unsung heroes of the somewhat distant past. It's a story of a lady who fed every hobo who came to her door. And she actually registered him by name and address, if he had one, in a great big lecture book that she kept just for that purpose. And Charlie said, I first met her in the summer of 1932, and by that time she had almost 2 ledger books full of names. Well, those were her friends, the fellows who came back to visit her from time to time. I've forgotten her real name, but that's not important because we all called her Soup Bean Annie, and that's the name she loved best. And in her kitchen, on the stove, at all times, was a pot of soup beans seasoned with bacon and 2 or 3 biscuits, always cooked, 2 or 3 dozen biscuits even, always cooked and ready to eat at any time. And she always enjoyed having the boys stop in for a bowl of beans and a couple of biscuits. They were her friends, the ones she considered her friends. Now, she lived about a mile north of the UP yards in an old weather-beaten frame house in a grove of cottonwood trees. And that's where that famous kitchen was. It was famous because she was known by every hobo west of the Rockies. Well, one time I was visiting, Charlie said, and I asked her how could she afford this and why did she do it? And she said, well, I have a little money and I can't think of a better way to spend it. And she said, as for why, it is sentiment. I married a wonderful man a few years back, and he'd been on the road before I met him. He tried to settle down, but he just couldn't do it. And after a time, he just up and left, and haven't seen him since. And then she said, but every day I hope and pray he too will stop in for a bowl of beans and a couple biscuits. I told you should have had a hanky for this one. Well, I felt Soup Bean Annie should have a song, so I gave her one. And in an old folk tradition, I took an old Carter family song and changed the words around to be about Soup Bean Annie. Here's my version. Oh, it didn't matter for us both had we never, in this wide and good world had never met, for the pleasures we both seen together. I'm sure love I'll never forget. She would sing, I'm thinking tonight of my blue eyes, who has left me to wander so free. And I'm thinking tonight of my blue eyes, and I wonder if he ever thinks of me. Then she would say, you told me once, dear, that you love me. You said that we never would part, but a link in the chain has been broken, leaving me with a sad and aching heart. So I'm thinking tonight of my blue eyes, who has left me to wander so free. Well, I'm thinking tonight of my blue eyes, and I wonder if he ever thinks of me. Then she might say, so here is a bowl of beans for you, and a biscuit or 2 before you go. And if you ever see my blue eyes, please tell him I still